Hello and welcome to For Future Generations, episode 67. I'm tired. I've had a long weekend, but it is the 14th of June, and it's good to be here. I am glad to be alive. I am Geoffroi. I'm joined, as always, by my wonderful friend, Sean. Sean, how are you doing, man?
6'7".
6'7". Goodness gracious.
Yeah, doing okay.
Goodness gracious. Yep. But if I seem a little bit tired or a little bit under the weather, it's because I just got back from the Republican Party of Texas general meeting, or the convention. And report of the permanent rules, platform resolutions, legislative priorities, and committees. I mean, that's a lot of words. So let's see. Do we have that sounder?
I'm not reading. Yeah.
Oh, no, we don't have that one. Oh, it's too bad. I should have grabbed that sounder and thrown. That's a lot of words. Too bad I'm not reading them. But I did read this whole thing, and I voted on it, filled out the Scantron, the whole thing. Felt like I was back in college. And but it was a really great convention. Most of the things went our way. Most things were very conservative. A lot of great stuff happened. A lot of it was holdovers from last convention. 2 years ago, we held the convention and we fought. I mean, it was a knockdown, drag out. There was a lot of dead air at this convention. Usually you don't see that, where there's like nobody on the stage, nobody doing anything. We got out on time. Nothing was felt rushed. And, but we got a new chair. Our chair, for those of you who don't know, our chair was an Indian gentleman named Abraham George, and he had some problems of a personal nature that were leaking into the press. At least allegedly, he had some problems. He did get arrested for domestic violence and attacking his wife's car with a baseball bat or something like that. And then, women kept quitting from his office because of harassment allegations.
No.
Yeah.
An Indian harassing women?
No, never happens, man.
No, sorry.
So, not beating the stereotypes. That's for sure. But the main problem was he wasn't raising a lot of money. And for those of you who don't know, the chair of the Republican Party, his number one job is to call people with money and say, "Excuse me, sir," or "Madam," but it's usually "sir." "Excuse me, sir. Could you shovel just a little bit of that our way?" So he's it's a bit of an inglorious position. You end up being a professional bootlicker and sock sucker and all that kind of stuff. But it's not a fun job, and it's not a paid job, but it's often seen by people as sort of a stepping stone into the next position. For those of you who remember Allen West, right? Allen West comes in and he runs for chair and he dethrones James Dickey. James Dickey, who was fantastic, just highly competent, really good at it, and very honest. I mean, really loved the guy. And he did it for 2 terms. And then Allen West comes in and runs against him and upsets him. And then he gets in and he spends all the party's money. And I mean all of it. Like, he almost bankrupts the Republican Party of Texas. And then he uses that as a springboard to run for governor, which he failed classically. I mean, just in a spectacular manner. And the thing is, I kind of liked Allen West. I mean, I liked the things he would say. I liked the things he would do. I liked the people he hung out with. But he proved to be completely incompetent at chair. But I think it's because he wasn't treating it with the seriousness that it deserved. He was using it as a springboard to try to run for statewide office, specifically the governorship, which he lost. And we've not heard anything from him for a while, and that's good. But our, George, he was running for re-election, and somebody was running against him, and she took it. So we will get into that. We'll talk about, for all of his faults, he did seem to run a pretty good floor. He was fairly honest with a few exceptions. As chair, you do have a little bit of leeway when the whole crowd is shouting yay or nay, and you can be like, the ayes have it. if it's close and you feel like one direction or the other, you can sometimes call it, and you can sometimes call it wrong.
Like
and I
that,
think,
what year was it where Ron Paul got absolutely screwed at the national convention?
yeah, and that would have been 2012, I believe. Yeah, and it was.
I was thinking 12. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was just that the chair has privileges, and you have to really fight hard if the chair is against you. But we had a pretty good time. But before we get into all that, let's have a word from our sponsors. And our sponsors are, folks, Deus Volt lapel pins. If you are not rocking lapel pins, what is wrong with you? Are you even an American? I am a Native American, and I am celebrating the 250-year anniversary. I've got my beautiful Maltese cross lapel pin on this side. This is what I wore to convention. I usually have, on this jacket, my Confederate lapel pin, which is in one of these pockets. I'm going to put it back on. But just for the sake of convention, I had to have the 250, so I put that one on instead. But guys, go to deusvoltlapelpins.com. Do not forget to use our code, guys. This code, I would say we fought long and hard, but we did not. Our friend over at Deus Volt Lapel Pins, he suggested it, and he came up with it. And, he said, guys, use this code, get 10% off. FFGDV26, 10% off your entire order. Do not forget, or click the link and it will be put into the URL and you will get that automatic 10% off. Don't forget, I've forgotten many times and I kick myself. But beautiful stuff. Maltese cross back in stock. The 76 pin out of stock again. But look at this. We got stickers now, guys. Put this on the back of your RAV4, on the back of your wife's Impala. Put this on your Toyota Tundra, or if you're a real American, your Ford F-350. Let the world know that you are a Christian nationalist. And look, it's White Boy Summer, guys. Time to get our White Boy Summer pins out. Put them on your caps. Get your single lens glasses ready, because boy, the videos have dropped. But stickers are out. Pins are back. The Boniface 2.0, that one's out of stock, but really, really cool. This one's very fun because it's kind of subliminal. Not a lot of people know. But, dude, I was walking the floor of the convention hall, and I saw no fewer than 6 people, half a dozen people with Deus Volt lapel pins, one of whom recognized me from Twitter and told his bro, hey, follow this guy. He's a great poster. So I was flattered. If you feel like I'm a great poster, I'm honored. I mean, Sean's a better poster than me. Half my posts are just me retweeting Sean. So, guys, if you want to follow us, I'd
be humble,
Twitter,
but I agree.
Exactly. If you want to follow us on Twitter, please do. Links in the description. You can find me. You can find Sean. Link is in the description. If you're watching this on Twitter, of course, follow me there. And if you're watching this on YouTube, that's where the links are in the descriptions. But guys, go to Deus Volt lapel pins. He has re-upped his sponsorship of this show. So last episode would have been our last sponsorship from him. He re-upped, and he's supporting the program, and we really appreciate it. Couldn't say enough nice things about Deus Volt lapel pins. So guys, go over there, rep the show, use the code, get the discount, and put some flair on your suit jacket or your ball cap.
Yeah,
and,
I got 5 right now.
Yeah, make your positions known and use them. These are also a shibboleth, guys. Anytime you see somebody with a Deus Volt lapel pin, that is a shibboleth. So great stuff. All right, with that said, let's get into the comments before we get too carried away. Let's see. We got Jeff Halfley says, let's roll. Yes, Jeff, thanks for being here. Appreciate it. Reform Brogue says, De Russell and Fawn Scott rolling in.
Yep.
I don't know about De Russell, but yeah.
Why not?
Jeff Halfley, greeting to you, thrill seekers and conversationalists all across the fruited plain. That's right. That's a callback to my childhood right there. That's the old Rush intro. And people saying hi to each other in the chat. Glad to see that. It's a community. Hope everyone has had a pleasant Lord's Day. You know,
Yes.
I feel like a bit of a cad. I did not go to church today, but like I said, crazy weekend. I took a nap today, which I don't typically do on Sundays because I'm usually at church. But I went to bed at like 10 and I woke up at 1:30. And I'm just glad that it wasn't the big sleep. You know, it felt like when I went down, I was like, I don't know if I'm coming back from this. Adam Razat says, HLD. Yes, happy Lord's Day to you, Adam. Great to see you. Happy Lord's Day. And Sean 45 Long Colt says, finally remembered to use your code on my last order. Yes, remember to use the code. That tells, you know, that's how we know there's feedback. That's how we know that people are finding Dave's Volt lapel pins from our show and not just finding it out in the wild. So that gives us some feedback, but also gives you a discount. So don't forget that. Don't forget that, guys. And Reformed Rogue says, I've been down sick and I'm finally feeling better this evening. Well, Rogue, prayers for you. And I hope that you're feeling better enough that you can get back to work tomorrow and that it won't be just an absolute nightmare, because I know that first day of work when you're still kind of recovering, that kind of sucks. So prayers for you, man. And he says, yeah, sometimes you need the rest. Yeah, it's supposed to be a day of rest, right? But you should not, as a rule, allow it to come in the way of going to church. But there are exceptions. There are moments in time when you do need the rest. But Sean, how was your weekend, man?
It's been good. Feels like it really hasn't even started. For me, weekends is Sunday, Monday. I work every Saturday and then I have Mondays off. So church is good. Got all I accomplished today. Yeah, hey. I took care of some issues that neighbors were having, so I was going out and doing that. I do that a lot. We have a lot of we have a very strong community of guys who take care of like the elderly or decrepit, or like, you know, just a guy who doesn't have time to get to whatever it is, like a tree falls or something like that, and everyone just brings out their we have a guy with that has a gator, and so we'll sometimes just hop on his gator and go and do whatever. But
oh, that's awesome, man.
Lady was having a very elderly lady was having some political issues, so I was going and talking with her about it, like permits and that kind of stuff, and trying to figure out what I can.
Fun.
Yeah, so I'll work through that on her behalf. So that's kind of what I was doing today. Tomorrow's like mow the lawn, all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah. Well, I got back from convention and I pulled in, and in my absence, somebody else had mowed my lawn, and I know who you are. You know who you are, and thank you very much. I appreciate it. But just a huge blessing to come home and the grass is cut, and I'm just like, wow. I am not a good enough a good enough person to deserve the friends that I have, you know. So I'm very fortunate. And Sean,
that reminds me of that King of the Hill where Bobby was like in trouble, and so Peggy was telling Hank like to give him some of the chores and like as punishment. And so Hank's like looking at the list. He's like, all right, you can clean the goat. No, I want that one. You can don't steal all my chores. Like,
yeah, I actually like doing this stuff.
Yeah. Why would anyone ever do drugs when you could just mow a lawn?
Dude, one of my favorite smells is the smell of there's two non-food smells that rank very highly with me, and one is fresh mown grass and the other is smokeless powder. Man, when you've got your nose down on the charging handle, that is some good stuff. I've never done cocaine, but I mean, I swear that stuff's better than cocaine.
You know what I will say? I never enjoyed the smell of fresh cut grass until I got to Texas.
Oh, yeah?
The grass here in Texas smells better than
Really?
I remember, I had done like threads on that on social media when I first got to Texas, like, I don't know, 6+ years ago, whatever it was. And just saying like, dude, you guys don't understand. Like, if you're only from Texas, you don't understand like how good it smells here compared to, because like in places like California, like when somebody cuts the grass, I'm like, ooh, dog, somebody just cut the grass. That's nasty.
Really?
Like, yeah, like it would have that smell like when somebody puts lawn clippings in their trash can.
Oh, yeah, the rotten kind of smell.
Yeah, it always smelled like that to me, but out here it smells like an herb, like a something that you want it to smell like. So just thought I'd bring that up because that shocked me, because I used to be that guy. Oh, what kind of idiot thinks fresh cut grass smells good? And I got here to Texas, I'm like, ooh, that's
I get it. It's a regional thing, I guess. Yeah. Well, I imagine. Excuse me. I imagine out in Arizona or Nevada, the smell of fresh cut grass actually just smells like dirt. So it's probably not very pleasant either. So yeah, it's got to be a regional thing. But with that said, let's get into our first topic, which is the Texas Republican Convention, which I just got back from. Stuff happened, and one of the stuffs that happened was Abraham George lost to Dorinda Randall. Now, Dorinda Randall was his vice chair, and the thing is, there's going to be a lot of he said, she said kind of stuff, but that's the way politics is. A lot of people talking about things without a lot of evidence to it. But people were saying that Randall was outdoing George's job, and he was mostly staying back at the office. So she was the one driving around the state, talking to funders, talking to people, trying to get the money and the cash and the things that you need to run a party. Whereas he was just kind of chilling back at home. And so when she ran against him, it was kind of a shoo-in. And that's leaving aside his personal problems that seemed to have standing. But, he was never charged with anything, no criminal liabilities, but just a lot of personal misconduct. Well, actually, I don't know that he wasn't charged, because he was arrested when he and his wife were fighting right after he got elected 2 years ago. But I don't know if he was charged or not. But yeah, here is Dorinda Randall. I'm not, as y'all know, I'm a bit of a chauvinist. I'm not fond of women holding office. I don't believe that is their place. But the Texas GOP, because the chair is the head of what is called the CREC, the committee, I don't remember exactly what it stands for, but essentially every county has 2 CREC nominees. They have a man and a woman that they send to represent them at the state, kind of like the SBC does, where every church sends a man and a woman, which I think is awful. But that's what the state of Texas does. And consequently, if you have a chair and vice chair ticket, if the chair is a man, the vice chair has to be a woman, and vice versa. So if the chair is a woman, the vice chair is a man. And Dorinda Randall's vice chair ticket partner, as you can see from this pin that she's wearing on her shirt, or this sticker here, was some guy named David Covey. And Sean, do you know David Covey? Have you met him? Or have you heard of him?
I don't think I do. No.
Yeah, but David Covey is a great guy from East Texas. The Covey family are a fantastic homeschool family. They've got like 9 kids. Just Mr. and Mrs. Covey created a whole army of Texas warriors. And when we were at convention this year, like 4 of them were in different positions, doing different stuff. For instance, in my Senate district, which is Senate District 24, our parliamentarian was Jonathan Covey, who is a great friend of mine. and David is his little brother. And he is now the vice chair of the Republican Party of Texas. So I am ecstatic. He's going to do great work. And I'm hoping that that's a springboard for, maybe if Randall moves on to a different position somewhere, or maybe she just goes home to spend time with her family and her kids and her grandkids like a good wife and mother should. Maybe he'll move to the chair. And then who knows, maybe that stepping stone to state senate or national Congress, or maybe even senator or even governor. So, I'm really excited about that. But so very, very good things happened. But we also I've got 3 clips that I'm going to.
Can you go back to that picture?
Yeah.
I just want to say, I am so tired. I know you kind of already said this, but I am so tired of this particular type of woman being inserted into into our politics. So I'm gonna say something, and then I'm gonna show you what I mean by it. This woman has so much. What is it? Collagen? Is that what it is that they inject into your face?
The facelift stuff. I know what you're talking about. Mm-hmm.
She's got so much of that just shoved into her face. She looks like Odo from Star Trek Deep Space Nine. Now, for those who don't know who that is, I'm going to go ahead and share this. This is Odo. All right, let's get a good... There you go. That's Odo. That's what she looks like, right? She looks like this alien that doesn't have facial features.
Yeah, almost doesn't have facial features. Yeah.
Yeah, because he can morph to look like whoever. That's kind of his thing. Mm-hmm. But she cannot, because she is a human being, woman, who has put so much filler into her freaking old face. I'm just so tired. I'm so tired of this. It's the same thing with Leah Wimbassis is the state representative ticket. She lost. It was a big thing, right? She's the Republican. She lost to this like blue collar, straight, white, bearded, veteran dude, right? But he's the Democrat. But then, our guy is this like former trophy wife.
Our guy is not even a guy. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm so tired of it. Like, go home. Literally, like I just have John MacArthur living rent free in my head every time I see a woman like this. Go home. Go be with your grandchildren or great grandchildren or whatever. I don't even know how old you are because you're so jacked up with your. It's gross, dude. She's got like, you know what? Here's another reference. She got those Zira from Planet of the Apes cheeks. Yeah, let's go ahead and bring that reference
and
up.
Unfortunately, I mean, this is something that is mandated by the way the Texas Republican Party is structured. I mean, you cannot have. I mean, you are not allowed to not have women involved. Like 50% of the people running the party, by the way that the rules are structured, have to be women, and it's not
this. This is what she looks like here. She got this going on, right? That old school Planet of the Apes makeup. Come on, man. Get this woman out of here. Tell me. Oh, I'm going to add it back. Watch. Tell me she don't look just like this. How do I add this to stage? Okay, remove this and then add this. There we go. Look at that. Come on, man. That's a dead ringer.
Yeah. And, there's something to be said for aging gracefully.
Yes.
Botox. That's the word for it. Botox does not allow you to age gracefully. It does not allow you to look like the beautiful old woman that God intended for you to look like in your old age. Yes. You don't look like a grandmother. You look you look kind of like a rubber chicken. And I'm not saying that to be mean. I'm just saying, look, if you are a woman, don't do Botox. Just please do not do that. Don't do that to yourself. Guys don't even like it. All right. Guys don't like it when women pump themselves full of Botox. You know who does? Women. And, you should not, women, listen to me. You should not be basing your fashion sense and your ideas on what you want to look like. Do not base those off of what other women want you to look like. Because it's not good. All right. Do what your husband likes. And you will find that you're going to wear less makeup. You're going to wear more feminine clothing, and you're not going to do Botox. You're not going to be dyeing your hair crazy, bizarre colors. I mean, everybody knows that's not her real hair color. I mean, that's not her real face. And it was so bizarre too, because when all the caucuses get together, each Senate district comes together, we all vote on who we want the next leader to be. And so they all come by and they give their spiel. And she came by, and this would have been on Friday. She came by and was giving her presentation like, hey, vote for me. I'm the candidate. You want me. And she was wearing this same red dress that you're seeing her in here because it was Friday. The next day at her acceptance speech, she came in and she was wearing these super tight black pants. And you know what else? All the Botox in the world is not going to help. Because if you're a grandma, you're going to be shaped like a grandma. And if you're a grandma, please don't wear tight pants. Okay. It did not look good. And all the cameras were zoomed in on this high waist, super tight black pair of trousers that she's wearing. And I'm like, oh, goodness gracious. But anyhow, as far as the job is concerned, she seems to be doing a good job. But mostly I'm happy just because my friend David Covey made it to vice chair, and I'm happy about that. So we'll see where he goes from here. We are going to be watching your progress with great anticipation, or whatever it is Palpatine says to Anakin, right? We're watching you with great anticipation.
Enthusiasm. Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah. But anyhow, got a few clips that we're going to play through. There were really 3 things that happened on the floor that I want to address. So first off, this book that I held up, which is the rules and the resolutions. What happens is, we will get certain resolutions written out in this paper. For instance, right here, we've got education, parents' rights, and then the verbiage will be subject to, following Robert's Rules of Orders, they will be subject to edits from the floor before the final vote. And there's usually a fight. Almost every year, we'll have the homosexuals show up and try to fight for the log cabin Republicans and the sodomites representation. This year, they didn't even show up. They were gone. They were notably absent. Yeah. And boy, am I glad about that. We didn't have to fight with homosexuals on the floor like we do almost every year. But what we did have was in our priorities were 3 elements that the abolitionist groups have fought for long and hard to get the verbiage in of, hey, abortion needs to be illegal, it needs to be prosecuted as murder. And keep in mind, guys, this is not legislation, okay? We're not writing legislation. What this is legislative priorities means we tell the legislators, hey, this is what the Republicans want. So it's what it is it is a strongly worded letter that we are telling the legislators, hey, this is what we want you to do. And there are some ways that we can kind of use that in a forceful way. If we have legislators who are opposing legislation that is in the priorities, then that can be used to censure them, which will hopefully affect their campaign the ways that they're able to raise money and supporting of people who come and primary them next time around. But at the end of the day, it's not legislation. It's just an open letter from the Republican Party to the Republican legislators. Hey, this is what the people want. It's a very democratic process. And as far as democratic processes go, I actually kind of like it. But anyway, we had the Texas Alliance for Life, which is the not pro-life organization in Texas. Understand there are 3 major pro-life organizations. Texas Right to Life is quite excellent. Texas Alliance for Life, they are not excellent. They are bad people. They are not pro-life. They are an organization that makes money off of abortion being legal, and they seem to do everything they can to try and keep it that way. So despite their name, they are very, very opposed to this. And they tried to take out some of the strong language in the priorities in the platform. And this is how that went down. I'm going to play this a little rapidly. And Abraham George, he has a little bit of an accent, but it's still fairly understandable. But this is how that went.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is the strongest that our Protect Life
priority. Oh, this is, I skipped ahead too far. So I'm going to go back to this lady in the red. She's the one who stands up and says, you know, we want to get rid of this. Let me get back to...
We are back on our report. Are there any discussion on the report from the Legislative Priorities Committee?
Please, sir, give me money.
Yeah. Sir. Sir.
Oh my gosh. Hello. My name is Amy O'Donnell. I'm the Executive Director of Texas Alliance for Life. I'm a delegate of Senate District 14, and I'm here to amend Pro-Life Priority 8. And there is some great language in the Pro-Life Priority 8, but right now we're encouraging people not to support it unless we can get this language out. And that is, if you can go to 8 on the screen.
Are you talking 9? It's 9.
9,
okay.
Thank you. Okay, yes. So what we would like to see taken out is right there. Everything else is great. If we cannot get this language taken out, the group pushing that language is trying to open the door for criminalizing abortion for women
Ma'am,
with
you're
the
not...
threat of life and...
So specifically, the group that she's talking about, that group that she's talking about is Texas, Abolish Abortion Texas, which is a group run by Bradley Pierce, who is a fantastic, great guy, who fought to get this language, fought tooth and nail to get this language into the platform last time around. And we fought this for 10 years. I mean, this is something that the Republican Party has been opposed to. So we got this in by hook and crook. And specifically the language that they want to strike, you can see it here. I'll read it because it's very small print, but it's equal protection. All right. So the sentence, by securing the right to life and equal protection under the law from the moment of fertilization until natural death, they want to strike and equal protection. They don't want equal protection for unborn children. The next sentence, the legislator must repeal penal code, et cetera, which is a law that decriminalizes abortion for women. So if you're the doctor, you can be held civilly liable, but as the woman who comes to do the abortion, there is no criminal or civil penalty at all. So those 2 laws are trying to get repealed. We want the legislator to repeal those laws because we have made abortion legal in Texas by statute, according to this. And that's what she's opposed to.
Prison or the death penalty.
You're not recognized for debate yet.
All right. So Robert's Rules of Order, you can come in, you can tell what you want to happen, and then you get to speak to it. But first you have to put in your amendment, which is a distinct issue.
My motion to strike.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Yes.
We have a motion and a second. Ma'am, you are recognized to debate.
Sure. What I would like to request is that we take out and equal protection and then repeal Penal Code sections 1906, 2212, and Civil Practice and Remedies Code section 71.003. Those laws, Texas Alliance for Life, work to put exceptions for women so that we go after abortion providers, holding them accountable, but that we support women and help them choose life. We believe that we have to stop the illegal trafficking of chemical abortion drugs at the federal level. In Texas, life is protected from conception with strong penalties for illegal.
Strong penalties such as what? And the answer is there are none. She's just making this up. There are no penalties except for civil penalties for the doctor. No penalties for the mother, no penalties for anybody driving you to and from, no penalties for the husband, no penalties for anybody except the doctor. And those are not criminal. Those are only civil.
Providers, life in prison, loss of medical license, $100,000 civil penalties. The Attorney General has several cases right now that our law that we passed, the Human Life Protection Act, is being used as a vehicle to hold people accountable, like Maria Rojas from Houston, a midwife who illegally performed abortion. We have to stop the pipeline. We have to support women. Right now, women going into pregnancy centers who walk through those doors and they choose life, sometimes with pills in hand. They hand them over. Sometimes they go into a pregnancy center after taking the...
Okay, and all of these things that she's saying about women coming in, okay, making it illegal is not going to change that. These pregnancy centers are still going to be there. Women are still going to come because it is still a societal ill that we have in our society. Go ahead.
I don't understand. She's saying like, we can't have this language here about prosecuting women who get abortions because we have to support women. Support women how? In making it legal for them to have abortions? Because that's what you're asking for. To say that it's illegal, but there is no punishment is to say that it's not illegal.
It's not illegal.
Yeah. Like
that's how laws work, actually.
Yeah. Like for instance, if there's discussion about, I don't think it's a super valid discussion, but the idea that traffic tickets, like if you get pulled over for speeding or something like that, that it should be based on the percentage of your income or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've heard that thrown around because the idea is, if a speeding ticket is, say, like $200, I don't know what a speeding ticket is these days. I've never gotten one, but say it's like $200, right? Well, to a rich person, that's just the cost of that. That's the occasional cost of speeding. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's basically paying a fast track or a toll road. It's basically like paying a toll road tax type thing.
Yeah, I mean, I know some rich people who pay a chauffeur, or not a chauffeur, but like a kid to go park their car, and they'll pay them that much. Like they'll just hand them a couple $100. Hey, go park my Rolls Royce, far away from the building so that I can get out right here.
Right.
Whereas, poor people, a speeding ticket is typically, from what I understand, about $350 around that range. $350 to me is a big deal.
Yeah.
$350 to a working man, that's a lot of money. $350 to, I don't know, Dan Patrick, the lieutenant governor, is not a lot of money. All right. No. He probably pays the busboy. If he gets a busboy who's really excellent, he'll probably drop him a tip that's that big because it's chump change to him. Yeah. And that's another point too, is where they're saying, she says, we have these strong laws. The strong laws she's talking about, she mentions it, a $1,000 fine per abortion that a doctor commits.
100,000 to be fair.
Sorry, 100,000. $100,000 fine per abortion. All right. If you've got Planned Parenthood coming in, which they do, and saying, hey, go ahead and do the abortion. If you get caught, we'll pay the $100,000 fine.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got millions of dollars in taxpayer money every year.
They're still making money hand over fist.
Yeah, they're not going to sneeze at that. Okay, this is, if I had to pay that as the dad, if I take my wife to go get an abortion and you charge me $100,000, that makes a big difference. But if you're charging the doctor of an institution with literally millions upon millions of dollars of taxpayer money, they're going to subsidize the abortions in the places that charge them those fees, because for them this is a religious right that they're fighting for. They're willing to spend the money. So
so all that to say, like, it's just the cost of doing business.
Yeah.
That's really
essentially what that comes down to is that's just the cost.
So I guess my follow-up question is, what is that cost? Because she's saying there's strong laws against this. Now I can say, I can write a strong law, quote unquote, that says stop or I'll ask you to stop again.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a strong law? Like if my law says I condemn in the harshest language possible abortion, and women are the highest level of naughty if they get an abortion, and then the penalty is $1, right? Well, that's not.
That's not a strong law. Yeah,
that's not a strong law. So, just all that to say, you see this in the pro-life movement all the time, in the legislative aspect of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not like people with signs, because the people with signs are doing it for love of the game, so they're not compromising at all, because they got up out of bed at 6 a.m. to go wave a sign and tell people not to kill their children. But these legislative people, they're raking in money, like big time money. Like this is a career for some of them. And if this language were to go through, and then legislators were forced to pass legislation with this language or lose their cushy job as a representative, then the whole system would fall apart, because these people don't actually want that. They just want the money of being a high status politician.
Yeah. And the strongest part of that law is the $100,000 fine, and then the doctor can lose his license. Which, if you have an out-of-state license, Texas can't really do anything about you anyway. They can say, hey, you're not allowed to practice medicine in Texas. But for instance, one of the people she talked about was a midwife who performed an illegal abortion.
Yeah.
And that woman is being fined. She's not losing a license because she doesn't have one. She's not being charged with manslaughter. She's not being hauled before a court and charged with murder. She's being charged with a fine and being told that she cannot practice medicine, which she already technically doesn't do, because midwife is not a legal category in the state of Texas. It is a volunteer, unofficial capacity. So, essentially what's going on here is the Alliance for Life, Texas Alliance for Life, is trying to take out the strongly worded parts of this where we actually make abortion illegal, which we have not yet done. But here is a friend of the show, Johann Gervais. He comes up and he has something to say, and I want to play this in full because it was very excellent.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is Dwayne Wright, SD5.
Or this is Dwayne. I'm going to skip Dwayne and go. You can see him holding his ears. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard sometimes when you're on the floor to hear what's going on because everybody around you is talking. And that guy behind him with the beard, that's Bradley Pierce, the leader of Abolish Abortion Texas. Great guy. But let's skip forward to I don't know. Maybe I went too far. Let me refresh the page because the timestamp should be right there.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is the strongest.
And this is Johann Gervais, South African guy. He is, despite the fact that he is of South African descent, this is a Native American. The founding fathers would have seen this man as fully American because he was born here and he is a white Christian man of good character. So just goes to show some cultures are more American than others.
That our protect life priority has ever been, and we need to keep it that way. It is still perfectly legal for a mother to abort her baby in Texas. If the president of Planned Parenthood wanted to come to Austin, Texas, and have an abortion on herself with pills and throw the body of that dead baby down on the steps of our Capitol building, it would be perfectly legal, and there's nothing we could do about it because we don't have a law that says that women are not allowed to have abortions on themselves. They're doing the abortions themselves. I'm tired of politicians coming and telling us year after year, oh, we already banned abortion, everything's fine. And year after year, tens of thousands of Texas babies continue to be murdered across our state. We need to close this loophole. We need to send a strong and clear message to Austin that we want to protect innocent life. Please vote against the amendment and keep our priority strong to protect the smallest, most vulnerable Texans. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Couldn't have said it better myself. There are no penalties for women who get an abortion, get an abortion pill, do it on themselves. Those drugs are legal. They are shipped to your house. You can get them. People will pay you to do it. And we don't have any laws against it. And like he said, you know, I am sick and tired of politicians saying, oh, well, we made it illegal, so there's no longer abortion going on in Texas. We were handing out flyers on the floor of the convention. I say we, as I volunteered with the Texas Abolish Abortion group, that we're telling people, look, there have been 330,000 abortions this year. This year, 330,000 abortions in the state of Texas. Well, in 1 year, within 1 year. Since 1 year before this convention, 330,000 abortions in Texas. And that's going off of the numbers of women who have procured these pills. And it's delving into the numbers. It's a rough estimation, but it's not wrong. The abortion fight is not over. And the main thing I want to hammer home here is these women are not victims. They don't see themselves as victims, and they're not deceived. All right. They know a lot of them. They know what they're doing. And the ones who don't, if you made it illegal for them to do it, they would know. All right. The law is a guide, right? The Bible says that the law is a tutor. It's an instructor. And if you want women to know what they're doing, the best way to do that is to make it illegal, because no longer can they have the excuse, oh, I didn't know what I was doing. Yeah, you knew what you were doing. It's illegal. It's against the statutes of Texas. So here, I've got another video here that a friend shared to Facebook. And I just want I want us to watch this together because it's a perfect example of how the women who get these abortions, they're not the victims. They are not repentant. They do not see what they did as wrong.
Did you kill it? Okay. Well, I'm here to tell you that if you don't repent of what you did, you will stand before God and you'll give an account for it. You'll give an account for murdering your own child. But there's forgiveness for that can be found. You do need forgiveness.
It says, I don't need forgiveness.
You evangelical? I mean, I'm assuming you're a part of the child rapist cult.
Okay, that's a foolish thing to say. The thing is, you come into this conversation with a lot of assumptions.
I do.
But what I'm here to proclaim to you is that you will stand before a holy God who will.
Not worried.
You should be worried, ma'am.
I'm not worried. I'm not one
Well,
bit
murdering
worried
your
about
child
that.
and then lacking repentance and lacking a conscience in doing that is going to earn you God's judgment and his wrath.
So, guys, here you have an example. And this is one example among thousands. I have heard so many people say so many things just like this. Oh, well, you know, I'm not worried. I'm not going to be judged. God doesn't care. Does God see? You know, God doesn't see. God doesn't care. What I did wasn't wrong. There's nothing wrong with what I did. And if we do not make it illegal, these people will continue to believe that they're doing nothing wrong when they murder their child. There's a very easy
Hey,
fix
buddy.
to this.
Hey, I gotta step away for a little bit.
Go ahead.
I'll be
Go
right-
ahead.
I'll
I'll
be
carry on. But yeah, I mean, these women are not victims. Christine Harhoff is a fantastic lady who does a lot of these things, where she will go out and talk to people in front of these abortion clinics. And she has a Facebook page called Not a Victim. Highly recommend y'all go and check it out, because so many of these women, not all, but so many of these women are not victims. They know what they're doing. They're going in with their eyes open. They know what's happening, and they are unafraid. They are unashamed of the things that they are doing, because they know there are no consequences. There cannot be legal consequences because of the ways that our laws are written right now. You know, we had trigger laws in Texas so that when Roe versus Wade was overturned, abortion would immediately become legal or illegal in the state of Texas. And while it looked like that was going to happen, it was going to the Supreme Court, our state went into overtime. You know, just these legislators doing their strongest work, fighting tooth and nail to make sure that we took out all the consequences for women, because women can't face consequences for their actions. That is the holy grail in our society. You know, women can do no wrong. Everything women do is fine. They went into overtime, just working day and night to make sure that we changed those trigger laws to make it so that women couldn't be penalized for seeking and procuring abortions, for murdering their children. And it is only because of the work of abolitionists that we have this kind of legislative priority that we are sending to our legislators now. It is not law, but it is a strongly worded letter. It is a legislative priority for the Republicans. Look, we need to make this illegal with consequences. Now, is that going to happen? We don't know. We're doing the best we can. We're doing all we can to pressure our legislators to promote good laws. And I wanted to take a moment and talk to some of our Christian nationalist friends who look down on the abolitionists, especially because, if for no other reason, the name that they have chosen. Our last show was called Is Abortion Worse Than Slavery? And in that show, I talked about the scourge of abortion in the United States. And Sean talked a lot about slavery. And I think we did a very good job of presenting how the United States was not wrong to have slavery. We did not do anything wrong. The abolitionists were radical non-Christians who fought to free the slaves, which, according to many Christian confessions, is a violation of the Ten Commandments. One of the things that you're not allowed to covet is your neighbor's slave, your brother's slave, right? In the Ten Commandments, that's one of the things you're not allowed to covet. And the abolitionists absolutely did covet their neighbor's slaves. And they freed the slaves in the United States and consequently have made slaves of us all. Just look at the way that our nation is structured now with the tax code and the way that laws are implemented and the way that the federal government rules over us with an iron fist. We are all slaves now. And that is not a good thing. We are supposed to be, according to the founding documents of this nation, we are supposed to be free men. Now, the abortion abolitionists have been doing great work. The overturning of Roe versus Wade, I posit, only happened because of the work that the abolitionists did, because they moved the Overton window. For decades, ever since Roe versus Wade occurred, for decades, the fight was to overturn that, and we never got close. We had all these pro-life organizations, all the pro-life organizations in the world didn't get us anywhere close. The abolitionists come in, and within a matter of years, within a decade, Roe v. Wade gets overturned, and we see pro-life legislation being lobbied from the floor of the Republican Party, like this. Now, this amendment, to get back to it, This amendment was voted on, and I was very worried when the vote was happening. I was extremely worried that it was going to pass, that they were going to take out this language. And Texas Alliance for Life was walking around handing out pamphlets like, hey, this is what we want to remove. There were three elements and three distinct priorities that they wanted to water down. The first two had to do with criminal penalties for the mother if she obtains an abortion. And the third one actually was a civil penalty where, for example, if a man and a woman shack up or are married and they get pregnant and the woman goes and gets an abortion and the husband didn't want her to do it, which she, by the way the law is written today, she does not have to take the father's will into consideration. She goes and gets an abortion. The way that this priority is written, if it were made into law, he would be able to sue her civilly for wrongful death so that he would have at least something that he could charge her with for killing his child, or the grandparents of the child, whoever would be able to get a civil penalty for murdering that child. Now, obviously, before you can do something like that, you have to have standing. So it can't just be any random person in the state of Texas. I can't sue some random woman who had an abortion. I have to be related in some way. That child has to be mine somehow. But Texas Alliance for Life, not only did they want there to be no criminal penalty for a mother procuring an abortion, they didn't even want a civil penalty. So after this came to a vote, I was very worried. I talked to the people in my Senate district, because that's how we're organized on the floors, by Senate district. And I talked to the people in my county. And I had a couple of people who were on board. They're like, oh, yeah, I'm with you. And I had a couple people, prominent people in my county who said, literally, in as many words, I cannot support this language. Penalizing the mother is wrong. I can't stand for that. And so I was worried that this was going to be a very close vote. It went to a vote and it got resoundingly rejected. Resoundingly rejected by the floor to take this language out. And if we did not have the abolitionists, first off, it never would have gone in. You never would have seen this language. None of the pro-life groups, even Texas Right to Life, which is a real pro-life organization, unlike Texas Alliance for Life, even Texas Right for Life were not the ones who lobbied for this language to be put in the platform. That is solely due to the work of AATX, Abolish Abortion Texas. And we're the ones who put that in there, and we're the ones who fought for it. And it was resoundingly rejected by a voice vote from the floor that we're going to keep this language. And they didn't come back. They didn't come back and challenge the next one. They didn't challenge the civil penalty. They didn't challenge the second criminal penalty. After that, they picked up their pamphlets and they left. And that's good. That's good. I mean, you would not have seen this 10 years ago. This is progress. And I know people like to say, oh, incrementalism. The real incrementalists are the people who are fighting tooth and nail to get every inch of what they want, coming back next year and continuing to fight, never being satisfied with just a little bit of progress. But you make progress anyway. The false incrementalists are the ones who say, oh, well, we can't move too fast. Oh, we need to soften the language here. Oh, we need to do this there. Those people are beautiful losers. They care more about what their enemy thinks about them. They care more about what the opposition will do. For example, a conversation that I had with one man when I was trying to get him to vote against this amendment to the platform. He said, well, if we do this, if we have this language in there, the Democrats are going to say bad things about us. And they're going to say that we want to prosecute women, and they're going to do this and they're going to do that. And what I told him is, well, they're going to do that anyway. They're going to accuse you of anything anyway, because these are dishonest people. They're not good people. So if they're going to accuse you of it anyway, you might as well just do it, right? And he said, well, but incrementalism. I said, well, part of incrementalism is never retreating. You know, if you're just trying to do little progress here, little progress there, you can't retreat. That's not incrementalism. That's surrender. And when the floor vote happened, that gentleman that I was speaking to, I'm pretty sure he didn't vote. I'm pretty sure he remained silent. So I'm glad that that conversation happened. I'm glad that it had an effect, because these things need to be penalized criminally, not just for the doctors, but for the mothers and the fathers who are hiring the doctors to do this. For instance, if I hired a hitman to murder my wife, let's say, my wife, she's such a nag, and she's getting older, and maybe I want a younger, hotter wife, so I'm going to go to this hitman and hire him to kill my wife. And then I get caught. The hitman gets caught. And, after the fact, the wife is murdered, the hitman gets caught, and the husband gets caught. Who gets charged? Well, the hitman gets charged for murder. You know who else gets charged for murder? The person who hired the hitman. Because you're not allowed to procure a murder. You are not allowed to do that. Unless it's an abortion. In which case, ollie income free. I guess it's perfectly fine. So, I'm glad to see this language is still in the priorities. Like I said, this is not legislation. This is just, as it were, a strongly worded letter. But it's good to see that we've made progress, hopefully, with the ability that we have to censure legislators who thwart this. It'd be really good. It'd be excellent to see this actually come to pass, to see these laws repealed, to see good laws put in their place. Laws that we still have on the books, actually. In the state of Texas, some of these laws are still on the books. There are just other penal codes that say, actually, that law can't be put into effect. In which case, is it actually a law at all? And I would posit that any law that is unenforceable is not a real law at all. But with that said, let's hit the comments real quick while we wait for Sean to get back, because I really want him to be here for the next bit. But we're going to have to go a bit quick once he does, and we might have to proceed into it without him because we have been going for an hour. But Dead Pagan 1183 says, I'll have to listen tomorrow, but for the algorithm, I stopped by to say God bless and thank y'all for the work y'all do. Well, thank you. Appreciate that. And listen to the show on your way to work tomorrow. It's a good early morning show for those of you who can't listen live. And then we got some support from the comments here. Nate Downey 9590 says, how about that NCP conference? LOL. Yeah, we will touch on that a little bit at the close of the show, because boy, did we have some interesting stuff going on. He continues, he says, it's because fresh cut grass in California is already dead from lack of water. Maybe. One thing I do know just from the Californians who moved to Texas is they seem to water their grass a lot. I mean, I assume that California is mostly desert, but Texas doesn't have good water. We have water problems because we get most of our water that we live off of from lakes, and the rest of it we get from aquifers, but those are all filled by rainwater. And if it were not for those artificial lakes, there's only one natural lake in Texas, and we have hundreds of lakes, and people live off of the water in those lakes. And we have all these people moving in from out of state, and it's unsustainable. We cannot support the numbers of people that we have moving here from out of state with the water that we have here in Texas. So we need to we need to figure out a different solution, because we can't have all these people moving here. We're running out of water. But yeah, Californians seem to water their grass a lot. They don't seem to be aware of the fact that we don't have a lot of that stuff. It's precious, and you can't just be watering your grass in the middle of July and August. Nate Downey continues, SBC doesn't send a man and a woman. They can send at least 2 and max 10. Doesn't matter who, just have to be approved by the church. If that's the case, they may have changed that, but I believe you are incorrect. I think you're thinking about a different aspect. Just like the CREC is not the same as the delegates. I was a delegate to the Texas Convention, but I was not a CREC member, who are the people who write the rules and the platform and resolutions. They sit on committees. In the SBC, you can send 10 delegates, but you have to send a, and I don't remember what they call them. It's something like a missionary or something like that. But you also send a man and a woman from each church. And so it's almost like the difference between Congress and the Senate, where you have 2 different chambers. One is the more popular chamber, and one is the more representative chamber. That's kind of what they're going for. And that's exactly what the Texas Republican Party does, as well as the SBC. So I believe, Nate, that you're a little confused about what we're talking about. Maybe I didn't make those distinctions clear. I went as a delegate. Your delegates are apportioned to your Senate districts and your counties by population. And I went to the convention as a delegate. We had 2 CREC members who are elected from the Senate districts, not by the counties. And those CREC members, one has to be a man, one has to be a woman. And then the chair and vice chair are, as it were, the head of the CREC. So the county, maybe it's by the county, but I believe it's by the Senate district. But yeah, the executive committee is the EC and CREC stands for executive committee. Yeah, Reformed Rogue says DS9 reference. Yes, DS9. I'm not a big TV guy. I've not watched a lot of it, but I have seen some DS9. Sean's seen a lot more of it than I have, but yeah, seems to be good TV. There's a dearth of that these days. Or worse, or Odo. Yeah, we don't need a bag on her too much for her looks. I mean, it's very unfortunate. Unfortunately, a lot of women seem to do this with the Botox, and I wish they wouldn't. Really do. Jeff Halfley says, regarding Randall, Ann Richards and Phyllis Schlafly aged gracefully, and it worked for them, and it can work for other women. Exactly. We have examples of women in politics who did not use Botox and who aged quite nicely, who turned into beautiful old grandmas the way that they're supposed to, because they weren't chasing this desire to always look like a young, beautiful thing. You know, beauty and youth are virtues. They are good things, but so is age and wisdom. And as we age, we should transfer from being young and beautiful or young and strong into being old and wise. And our looks should represent that. And if we don't, if we try to cling to youth and beauty or youth and strength, what you end up with is people who look very odd. I mean, I'm sure we've all seen 70-year-old power lifters who are, you know, trying to keep the 6-pack abs and trying to look fantastic their whole life. And that's just as unnatural as women with Botox, and can be just, you know, can be very distracting. It's a sign that things aren't right at home generally. Jeff Halfley continues, this year it was very noticeable that the battle was between 2 right-wing candidates. There was no Bush, Hutchinson, Perry, Cornyn candidate. For the chair, I mean, Abraham George is considered right-wing. Yeah, I would say so. I mean, he is an Indian, so he's not a Christian nationalist. He's not an ethno-nationalist, anything like that. But he is a Christian. And from what I understand, not one of these happy, clappy Christians, but a real Christian, seemingly. And one thing I do want to mention about Abraham George is he he was very graceful in his defeat. He put out a concession on Facebook. He lost almost all of the Senate districts. He got 3. So it was resounding. I mean, he got thrown out on his ear, and he did not rage quit. You'll notice that he chaired the floor, the convention, and he was not super competent. I mean, James Dickey was fantastic. And even before George, we had what is his name? I'm sorry, man, I've forgotten your name. But another great guy, and he even did a better job than George. One of the jobs of the chair is also to organize the thing, and it was not very well organized. But some people are better at some aspects than others, and it was time for him to go. And I'm glad that he's gone. I wish him well. I hope he takes his family back to India, where he belongs. We need good Christians in India, and he seems to be a good Christian, so he should go back. But Jeff Houtley continues, now we get to choose the most competent right-winger to lead us. Yeah, I mean, I wish it wasn't a woman, but woman or foreigner, I guess that's a difficult decision. But Check for Tunnels says, women on the right get real nervous when it looks like they might not be able to do those things they definitely would never do.
Boom.
Yeah. No commentary necessary. Jim, the Kingfisher, says women won't ever give up power. It's in their genetics. They can't help it. That's why they should have no power or say to begin with. Well, I mean, it goes back all the way to Genesis 3, doesn't it? Or is it 2? I forget where the curses are, but I believe it's the beginning of chapter 3. God says to the woman, your desire will be to subvert your husband, yet he shall rule over you. Her curse was that she would try to subvert her husband's authority. And it's a sin nature thing, and it hasn't changed. This is not new. Feminism didn't get invented in the 1930s. It certainly had a surgence in the United States. But feminism was invented when Adam and Eve were thrown out of the garden, and it's going to be with us till the very end. This is a fight that we're just going to have to continue. And yes, they can't help it, but that's not why they should have no power to begin with. The reason they should have no power to begin with is because of what the Apostle Paul said, I do not allow a woman to have authority over a man. Straightforward. He says women shouldn't teach. They shouldn't have authority over men. The Apostle Paul said that, and I stand with the Apostle Paul. Check for Tunnel says, from a sales and marketing perspective, I get why right-wing outlets have blondes in front of the camera. It gets viewers, but they're always one reservation away from turning into Lauren Southern. Yep.
Not sure what you mean by one reservation, but yeah, Lauren Southern was a
This is a male only space, this podcast. I mean, I don't foresee us ever having a woman on the show, but if we do, it'll be for a very specific reason, like a personal anecdote or something like that. But even that, I really just don't see a reason to do that. Women are not supposed to exercise authority over men. They're not supposed to teach men. And while this podcast does not exercise authority over anything, it certainly teaches. I mean, that's kind of the purpose of it. We call it for future generations because we're hoping that this is an encouragement and an equipment for men who want to lead families and want to leave a legacy for future generations. That is teaching. In however small a capacity. I mean, we've got 50 live viewers right now. That's a very small capacity, but it is a capacity. And women are not supposed to do that. He says they see themselves as victims if you make them keep the baby. This is Nate Downey talking about abortive mothers. Yeah. How dare you make me not murder my child? How dare you make me have this child? I mean, I had a conversation with a woman on the floor of the convention. I was standing out front with the AATX guys holding signs, arguing with people. And there was a lady who said, well, I know a girl who was raped and she was 9 years old and she got pregnant. And you're telling me she has to keep the baby and have that monstrous child. And what me and my buddy who was standing next to me, what we told her is, look, what happened in that instance was egregious. It was criminal, and the man who did it should be put to death. I mean, what she said is castrated. And I said, no, that's not enough. I like the idea of castrating sexual degenerates. I mean, I'm a radical, but the Bible's clear. Rape is a capital crime. You should be put to death. And, but as far as the woman keeping the baby or a 9-year-old who becomes pregnant, that is an injustice. That is evil. That is awful. But you don't, everybody who has a grandma, what did your grandma tell you when you were a child, right? 2 wrongs don't make a right. You don't get to murder a baby because of some evil that was committed against you. You don't have license to commit evil because you are a victim. That's not how the world works. Sometimes you have to accept that in God's grace, he will give you the strength to carry through this injustice that he has allowed to come to you. Jeff Halfley, it was interesting how this convention was a big L for female privilege. First on abolition, and then when a woman attacked equal parenting and fathers, she got loud boos. The times they are changing. Yeah, and we didn't play that clip for time, but there was a woman who spoke for the amendment, and she said, actually, there were 2 different ones that I thought were hilarious. One of them was one woman who said, every man should recuse himself on this vote because they can't have a child. And people were screaming at her, calling her all kinds of things. And that was good. That was good because we need to shame these disgusting women that say things like that. And, men should recuse themselves. No, they shouldn't. I said to the guy next to me, so if we're voting on what the appropriate punishment for rape should be, do all the women have to recuse themselves? Is that how that works? Because women don't rape, for the most part. I mean, there are exceptions, but for the most part, women are not rapists, right? It's mostly men. So should men be the only ones who get to have an opinion on what the punishment for that should be? No, obviously not. It only works one way, does it? Because only women don't have to face consequences. The other one was there was a woman, and it actually didn't have to do with abolition. It had to do with another subject. She said, children should be raised by their mothers. This was having to do with our anti-homosexual plank, where we said, the Republican Party recognizes marriage as being between one man and one woman, and that they are both responsible for the raising of their child. And she said, well, children should be raised by their mothers. Men don't have anything to do with this. And people were booing her. I was booing her. People were calling her names. My wife, who was sitting down in the back with the kids, the woman next to her screamed expletives at her. And my wife said to me afterwards, I wasn't expecting that. She didn't look like us. We're very conservative in dress and in language. And this woman had tattoos and she was wearing gaudy clothing. But when this woman said, children should be raised by their mothers, men have nothing to do with it, this woman screamed, boo, boo, F you, go home. So while we don't condone the language, it was good to see the pushback from the normie crowd, from normal people. And he says, Nate is thinking of the SBC, not the Texas GOP. Yeah, he did say that, but he was still mistaken. But I think I elucidated the miscommunication there. And he says, I'm sure about the SBC messengers. I've been several times. Man and woman thing is not a thing. I don't know what you're talking about. And it is possible that I'm mistaken, but I don't believe I am. Yeah, messengers is what they call their delegates, but there is another office that is analogous to the CREC, where each church gets to send a man and a woman to be committee members and such and so on. But I may be maybe misremembering. But SBC sends up to 12 messengers per church, no requirement. Jeff is talking about the executive committee of the Texas GOP. Yeah, I am, but if I'm not mistaken, There is an analogous thing in the SBC as well. He says each state Senate district elects one man and one woman to serve. It is modeled on the Republican National Committee, which has one man and woman per state. Yeah. Reasonable Thinker says, hey guys, unrelated question for tonight's topic. Where do you stand on socialism and real fascism? Would you be open to discussing what these two political ideas actually are?
Can I jump in real quick? Because I did see this.
Go ahead.
And I know I'm having to run in and out. For those who don't know, I have a daughter with autism, kind of in a impossible situation at the moment. So if you see me running in and out, that's what I'm dealing with. As far as this question, real fascism, and I mean, it reminds me of when in the army, when you'd be in a bad unit and people would say like, this isn't the real army. Like there was always like this magical place somewhere,
right?
With it, like there was some duty station that was the real army, right? Like I'd be like, man, the army sucks. No, this isn't the real army. You don't understand. If you go to Fort Riley or if you go to Benning or whatever, there's this magical unit there. So I guess with this, like, where do I stand? Though, I mean, socialism, I would say, is, depending on how you define that, it would just be a moral evil, full stop.
DOA. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Fascism would be something that is not the flag I fly, but for the most part, doesn't really seem morally evil. So, I mean, that would be the way that I would answer that. Like, I wouldn't say that, I mean, even guys that call themselves fascists today, that aren't just trying to be edgy, I mean, they seem to have my best interests at heart. I mean, they have their own best interest, the best interests of their families at heart. Like I've said, but I always come back to this, and it's one of the big reasons that, me and Jeff, we fly these flags. Like I've got the Third National, he's just got the regular battle flag, and the First National, actually. First National A, I guess is what you would call that one, because it's got less stars than the second First National. But anyways, I bring that up because, like, if someone was gonna hang me for being a Nazi, I'd be like, "Oh, just call me a neo-Confederate. Let me go with that one, because that's actually something I will lay down my life for that ideology. Like, don't make me, like, don't kill me for an ideology that I'm not trying, like a banner I'm not trying to wave." So I mean, I guess that would be my answer when people try to say like, "Oh, you're a fascist, you're a Nazi, whatever." First of all, the term Nazi was not invented by German fascists. Like that was not a thing that they made up.
The NSDAP, the National Socialist Democrats Workers' Party of Germany, they called themselves fascists, but they didn't call themselves Nazis. That was always a pejorative. Now, when it comes to fascism, there's a book by Paul Gottfried called Fascism, the Career of a Concept. I really recommend it to people. And the takeaway from that book is fascism, especially Italian fascism, was a snapshot in time. And German fascism, which is very different than Italian fascism, to the point where by the time the war started, they did not see themselves as being in the same movement anymore. They're both of them historical moments. It's kind of like when we talk about the English Civil War and the two sides in that fight. Those people aren't around today. And some people can look back and be like, okay, I agree more with this side than with that side. But that does not make you a Covenanter or a Cavalier or a Roundhead or any of these kinds of things. You aren't that, because you aren't living in that. You live, like it or not, you live in the 21st century. You are right here, right now. There is no such thing as a fascist today. Now, when it comes to the fascism that we saw in Germany and in Italy at that beginning of the war, the Second World War, the most similar politician we have today who is analogous to those positions is actually Donald Trump. So when people scream and say Donald Trump is a fascist, he's not, but he's very close. And ironically, a lot of the things that I disagree with Donald Trump are things that would make him less fascist if he were to change his position. If he were to become more limited government, more Republican, and less socialist, social welfare and things along those lines, more in line with me, he would become, as it were, less fascist. So I'm not a fascist. I'm not a real fascist. I appreciate some of the things they did, and I disagree with a lot of the things that they did. Socialism. The problem that I have with socialism, it is inherently anti-biblical. The Bible says, if a man does not work, he should not eat. And it says it in a couple of places. It says it, first of all, in Proverbs, and then it requotes it in the New Testament. I believe it's in a letter from Paul. And socialism does not believe that if you do not work, you do not eat. Communism, which is a more extreme and more honest form of socialism, is based on the idea of the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, and from each according to his ability to each according to his need. And the problem with that is, from each according to his ability is a very low bar, because we can all become less capable. And the problem with to each according to his need is people are inherently needy and can become more needy when the need arises, right? If I'm being evaluated based on my abilities, and then I'm being evaluated separately on my needs, I am going to inflate my needs and deflate my capabilities inherently, naturally, because it's a survival instinct, and everybody's going to do that. And so it doesn't work at all. So I'm not a socialist. I'm an anti-socialist. And I'm not a fascist, but I'm not an anti-fascist. That's the distinction I would make. But I highly recommend, get the book by Paul Gottfried, Fascism, the Career of a Concept. Read it, reread it. I should reread it. I've only read it twice, and it's been a couple years.
Is there an audio?
There are audio versions. I found it for free on YouTube, a bootleg version, but you can get it on Audible if you want to be a law-abiding citizzen. And
is there? So there's like a legit.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there are legitimate ways of getting your hands on it. It's a very widely read book, and it's extremely well respected, despite the fact that Paul Gottfried, the Jewish guy, gets called a Nazi for having these pro-socialism and pro-fascism books, which are neither of them pro-socialism or fascism. But highly recommend that.
So speaking of Nazis, I wanted to share this banger here, because it was just the first thing I thought of when I saw this. Now Will Spencer sets things up where like you can't quote him without him like allowing it. Like he checks all the quote tweets and then allows it to go through. So that's why I did that. That's why I screenshot.
That's why it's a screenshot. Yeah.
He says, New Christendom is selling books by literal Nazis at their conference, and Joel Webman's NXR Studios is promoting the protocols of the Elders of Zion. This could have been stopped at any point if enough reformed influencers spoke up. They didn't. Ooh, got him on that one, bud. And of course, Sean Russell, who is yours truly. I said, if Will Spencer's trajectory is any indicator, the guys selling these books are about 2 months from being Doug Wilson's pet expert on neo-Nazi beliefs. Because if you remember,
right,
Will Spencer was doing, dude, I still can't believe that when Woe dropped that interview that he did with Will Spencer, like he just dropped the episode. They had recorded it, and then Will Spencer did a complete 180 and within like a month or two, and Doug Wilson was putting...
I completely disavow all these things that I just said. Not here's why they were wrong, or here's what I said that I disagree with now, but just, oh no, I don't believe that anymore. I mean, he was saying factual things and then propounding their ramifications, making coherent and logical and long-form arguments.
Yeah, so Beldar Conehead over here is it's so hypocritical. It doesn't make any sense. His entire shtick is just a grift. So I just thought I'd throw that out there, because like I said, like if you're gonna hang me for an ideology you don't like, make it be
the one I actually hold to.
Yeah. Be it like that's a flag that I have some pride in, that I believe represents me. I don't have any ancestors that were in Germany on either side of World War II.
I do.
I was in the army. I was in the army in Germany, not during World War II though. So
yeah. Well, I have ancestors who were in Germany on both sides of that war. I have two great grandfathers, my father's side and my mother's side. On my mother's side, he was a German who immigrated to the United States, became a U.S. citizen, was drafted, and went up the boot of Italy with Patton into Germany. Got to Italy and said, I hate Italians. They're stinky, they're smelly, they're dirty. Got to Germany, looked around, and he said, I don't know about this. I don't feel like I should be fighting these people. These are the good guys. Much like Patton said. On the other side, I have an ancestor who was in the Wehrmacht. He was one of Hitler's foremost soldiers. Wait, Hitler needs me? Yeah, he was that guy. And he was in charge of a train depot and did a very good job by all accounts, by his accounts anyway, because those are the ones that I have access to. And he hated Russians and he hated communists. And so he went into Russia in Operation Barbarossa. But then toward the end of the war, he ended up in a salt mine because he was half Jewish. And so, I've got history on both sides and all sides and undersides and oversides of that conflict. And I have feelings about it. Yeah. So anyhow, a reasonable thinker says, my question isn't a gotcha question, by the way. Yeah, we didn't expect it as such. He says, I would tackle the subject if I had a face for live streaming. Let me tell you something, reasonable thinker. You have a face for live streaming. Most people who are watching this, I guarantee you, are not watching this. They're listening to it. All right. And you may not be as studly and handsome as Sean or myself, but if you've got good things to say, people will tune in, because people actually don't care as much about what you look like as they do about what you say and whether or not you're an idiot. And people are very patient with me, thankfully. But Nate Downey says, guys, you need to go after no-fault divorce next. Yeah, we definitely need to do something about that. We actually went after that in our county precinct meeting, and we sent that up, but it did not get enough support at the senatorial caucus level, so it did not make it into the platform. But yeah, we would love to get rid of that. And he says, you're mistaken, just take the L, bro. All right, I'll take it.
Yeah,
I'll take it. He says, could you cover fascism and why it's good then? Well, I think we did a little bit talk about, He says NSDAP, D for Deutsch, right? Yeah, it's the Nationalista Sozialist Deutsches Arbeiterspartei. So the Nationalist Socialist Germans Workers Party. Yeah, NSDAP. And I was talking to my father-in-law the other day, and I said, well, when the Nationalist Socialist Workers Party, he said, wait, they're the Workers Party? Somehow, my boomer father-in-law had gotten all the way through his education and deep interest in World War II history without ever realizing that the Nazis were a workers' party. Yeah, that's what they were, and that's why they were so popular, is because they supported the working man. They were very blue collar. They were a populist movement.
I will give one last opinion on this, since it got brought up, and because it's in like every headline right now in Reformed and Lutheran and all these circles. Fascism existed as a pushback against communism.
Right. So it was a reactionary movement.
Yeah. Communism came about, and then, like you said, a reactionary movement to that. Mm-hmm. You then had the anti-fascists, the Antifa. They called themselves that back then. They had the same flag logos and everything. It's not some new things. Antifa is a bunch of communists, literally communists. That's not like name calling. That's not saying they're the bad guy party over there. No, literally a communist movement. So really what World War II was, in my opinion, is you had the communists versus the fascists. And America, for whatever reason, I've got my theories, decided to fight for the communists. We said that's the good guys. So
yeah. So if you want to, yeah, I mean, he says, maybe talk about why fascism is a good guy. Well, I mean, they weren't communists, so I guess that makes them the good guys by default, but that doesn't necessarily make them our guys. There's a distinction there. I mean, the Republican Party. Go ahead.
I will ask this of people. I actually, we could do an episode on this because I keep saying I don't have opinions on this, but I do have some very strong opinions. When people say like, oh, this guy's literally Hitler. I hate, I hate this guy because he's literally Hitler. Well, at that point, if this person tells me that they are a conservative, I would have to ask, what in particular did you not like about what Hitler did? Was it burning the transgender books? Because like I'm down for that, right? Was it honoring mothers who had a bunch of kids and giving tax breaks for families for having kids, like all that kind of stuff? Like you weren't against that part, right? You weren't against the immediate turnaround of the economy, right? Like you weren't against that. So like, let's get to the things you're actually against, because that actually matters, like what exactly you're against.
Yeah.
Another, what was the other thing I was going to say? I don't know.
When it gets to, what are you actually opposed to Hitler for? One thing that the Christian commentators like Doug Wilson love to say is, oh, well, he was a socialist and we're opposed to socialists. Well, I don't hear you decrying JFK. I don't hear you saying that LBJ was a bad guy because he was socialist. And I especially don't hear you talking about how the United States at the outset of World War II was a socialist government under FDR. These people had socialist tendencies. These people were as socialist, if not more socialist, than Adolf Hitler ever was. LBJ and FDR especially, far more socialist than Hitler was. Yet we went to war with Hitler. Well, it didn't have anything to do with socialism, because of the countries that went to war, England, Italy, Russia, the United States, Germany, they were all socialist countries at that time. And the United States is still very socialist in the way that we run our economy. The UK is still fully socialist. And Russia was full out Marxist, Leninist, communist. So, no, the war actually had nothing to do with socialism. And people who say, oh, well, Hitler was bad because he was a socialist, they're not living in the real world and they're not being intellectually honest, because it had nothing to do with it. The reason they don't like Hitler is because they went to school and the school told them Hitler bad, and therefore Hitler bad. All right, let's get back into the videos from the RPT convention. And I'm going to have to make these kind of quick, but this was another thing that happened, and I'm going to play it and exposit as necessary. Sean, if you want to jump in, just say something and I'll pause it.
Mr. Chairman, calling in SD12, blank number 10. I move to strike natural born. The reason for this?
First off, does that look like a Native American to you, Sean?
9.
Yeah, light on 9. Number 10, I'll read it to you. We support requiring all elected officials in Texas to be natural-born citizens of the United States and call upon the Texas legislature to pursue all available constitutional and legal means to establish and enforce such qualifications for public office. That is the entire number 10. Okay, that is the entire legislative priority right there. He wants to strike natural-born citizens, which is what the whole thing's about. So if you take out the word natural-born citizen, what are you left with? Nothing. We support requiring all elected officials in Texas to be of the United States, citizens of the United States. That's already a requirement.
Yeah.
That's already the base requirement, is that you have to be a citizen. So he's just saying, let's go back to the status quo. And first off, he might have some reason for wanting that. Don't you know? Because what is this guy? Some sort of Southeast Asian, some sort of South Asian. I mean, this guy looks Malay or some sort of Southeast Asian. And he wants to strike this. Why would that be?
Hold on. Need a second.
Wait for a second. He's going to call for a second.
And I want us to hear his reasoning.
Do I have a second?
So he calls for a second. He gets a second.
We have a motion and a second, and we have an amendment and a second. Can you state your name? Carl?
Yes, Carl Lin.
Okay.
Carl Lin. Somehow I doubt his name is actually Carl, but we'll continue.
SD12.
You may speak for your amendment, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The reason I want to strike natural born, because we are Americans by holding to a set of ideals. We're not American just because our place of birth. Second, when the founding...
So it's magic dirt, man. We're not Americans because we're born Americans. There's no ethnicity of American. There's no Native Americans. We're just ideals. Anybody can become an American. The whole world's American. They just haven't got here yet.
Founding fathers, consider this. They imposed this requirement only on the president and the vice president. They did not impose this on U.S. senator, congressman, or any other office.
Sean, who was allowed to vote when our nation was founded?
I think it was free white men of good moral character, or was it just white men?
That's right, free white men of moral character.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah. Would this man fit that bill? I mean, he's free, as far as I know, but he's not white. So he's calling on the founding fathers, but the founding fathers would not have seen this man as being an American, much less being able to hold office. The restriction that they had on president was that he had to be born in the United States, which excluded Alexander Hamilton, because I believe...
Yeah, I was going to say, you had John Adams, the second president of the United States and first vice president, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right.
Who went on record and said that he did not consider Alexander Hamilton to be an American. He would just drop kind of things like, he's not like us. You know, for them, they were talking about like, you know, my great grandfather moved to this land. It wasn't exactly a nation when he showed up. They were there to establish a nation, but they would, I mean, the between the Mayflower and the signing the Declaration of Independence, I mean, you've got almost 200 years. No, not quite 200 years, but you got like 150. I mean, enough to put down some pretty serious roots. And that's why they were saying like Alexander Hamilton, like he just showed up. I mean, you know, God bless him for being in the Continental Army, but he ain't an American.
And he was able to hold office. He was just not able to hold the highest office, because he did hold office in the United States government. He was a treasurer or something like that. I forget exactly what the verbiage was.
The Secretary of the Treasury, which is why he's on the $10 bill.
That's right. But Alexander Hamilton was not sufficiently American to be president because he wasn't born here, but he was a free white man of moral character. This man who is advocating for foreigners ruling over us is not a white man. So the founding fathers, whom he is regaling, would not have seen this man as being an American. They would not have let this man vote, much less hold office.
So I would strongly urge that we follow that wisdom and not add this. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Now, unfortunately, this amendment was successful, and it came to a very close vote, actually. And at the end of it, Abraham George gave it to the ayes when I think he should not have.
Second, when the founding fathers consider this.
Forward. Let's try that again.
Walt Nickel, SD 616. I'm speaking against the amendment. So this seems to be very...
just for the sake of time, I'm not going to scroll through here and try to find it. But, you know, the ayes and the nays went up, and Abraham George gave it to the amendment when I thought he shouldn't have. And there's a very obvious reason why he might have done that. And it's because Abraham George was not born here. Abraham George was born in India to Indians in India. And then he came here, and he's just as American as you or me. I mean, it's the old meme, right? Let me explain your country's history and how it's all about me.
Yeah, the story that I tell is, I was doing work for a customer, and very clearly Indian, like accents and everything. And so I'm doing work in the house, and I go to this one room, and there's this big bookshelf, and there's some normal things you would see for an American, and then you've got like a whole section of like the history of India, and religious things about India, like just the cultural, just things to read about India. And I was just like, that's what every American has on their bookshelf, right?
Just as American as you or me.
Just the history of India, which is cool. I mean, if you're like into that, like some people just, there's one foreign culture, they're just like, I want to know the history of this. But it was only India was the one. And it was because that's where their roots are actually at. They care about that history because it's their history.
It's because that's who they are.
Yeah. You don't just show up in America and suddenly your history has changed, the history of your people. Actually, just tonight I was, we finally finished the 2 Charlie and the Chocolate Factory books by Roald Dahl. Charlie and the Great Glass Elevator is bizarre, but son wanted it, and so okay, there we go. But so we finished that, and we started How to Train Your Dragon, which I didn't even know was a book originally, but it is. And so I've been reading him that at bedtime. And I was trying to explain to him, now he's only 3 years old, so I'm sure this went over his head, but I was trying to explain, because it talks a lot about Vikings, right? So I'm like, okay, you know how I'm your daddy? Well, I have a daddy, and then, his daddy has a daddy, and trying to explain the concept of, you go back far enough, the people that they're talking about in this book are our ancestors. I mean, not these exact people, but the idea of the Vikings, like these people were real. There's real Scandinavian peoples, and that's where we come from, partly. But just trying to explain that concept to him, that will never change. It doesn't matter if he, actually moves to Norway. Like,
it doesn't matter if he's a member of the first colony on Mars.
Yeah, it doesn't. None of that changes. Like his history, his genetic history, how he got here, actually matters. And it's not a tabula rasa thing. So, anyways, I just thought I'd throw that out there because, yeah, these guys, they come here and, I agree 100% with you. I had another Indian customer I was talking. This is actually pretty recent. He may have been from Pakistan, actually.
Same difference.
But yeah, I mean, really, like he was kind of explaining it like it's the same. But he, I was trying to, I kind of like dropped little nuggets where it's like, I've got ancestors who came here on the Mayflower. Like, I was trying to explain, like, when you say you're an American, like I can appreciate that in some sense, but understand like I can't get away from that from being an American. Like when I was stationed in Germany and I'm just walking around Germany, like it was clear, like I cannot just suddenly become German in the way that these people are German. No amount of paperwork's going to do it. No amount of learning 99 Luft balloons or whatever, right? Like that's not gonna, as if that's still culturally relevant in Germany. But
you'd be surprised. It's still a classic.
Really?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's still that big. Okay.
People my age anyway. We grew up on it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, but it was
Anyway,
the same for me. I was a kid in Germany, and in Germany, I spoke German. I went to a German-speaking church. Both of my parents, fluent German speakers. But I was the American. You know, our family was the American family on our street. And they kind of held us at arm's length, like you're not us. We spoke their language, we ate their food, and we were not them. Despite the fact that both of my parents' heritage comes from Germany predominantly. And we were not German. And it wasn't until next door we got Iraqis who moved in that our neighbors were like, okay, you can be us now.
yeah.
It took the foreigners invading for there to be any kind of unity in our neighborhood. And
So I tell people
that was something I experienced firsthand. Yeah.
It's concentric circles. You know, Audie talked about this, where there's the way that he described nations and like sister nations and all this kind of like, he nailed it. Like I couldn't even do it as well as he did. I mean,
Yeah.
it just,
Well, he's been thinking about these things for a long time.
Yeah. Because like the example that he used that was really helpful for me was he was saying, you know, Norwegians and Swedish aren't the same people, but they're closer to themselves than they are to Italians, which is why we have such thing as the Scandinavian people. You know, Europeans are closer to each other than they are to like Africans, which is why we have the European people. I mean, it's so clear when you put it that way, that when you look at SAR here, it's like, oh well, clearly that's where that guy from. If I can look at you and I can say I know what country your ancestors came from, like you're not an American the way that I'm an American. You're a paperwork American.
Yeah.
Like it's not the same.
It's not the same, and it never can be. Now, if he stays here and his children marry Americans and his grandchildren marry Americans, you know, eventually you can have an ethnic washing where eventually they become Americans. But that takes time. That takes generations.
Well,
Abraham George will never be and never can be an American the way that you or I are Americans, because when our great-grandparents got here, my German great-grandparents got here, and your Scandinavian grandparents, I assume, even they were considered not fully American. It took generations for them, and they're white Europeans. It took generations for them to be considered fully American. And yet we're supposed to just accept that, oh, you can come from any country on the planet, you know, the deepest, darkest heart of Africa or Sri Lanka, India, Pakistan, and oh, you're just as American as me and my children. No, I reject that.
Yeah, there's a is it Charles Murray that I'm thinking of that did the bell curve?
I'm not familiar with who did it, but I know the bell curve.
The bell curve. I kind of want to. Anyways, the guy that did the bell curve. If you want to look that up while I'm telling the story, but the guy that did the bell curve, he had a sequel as well, and I don't remember what it was called, but I remember listening to that, and because it was brought up in some context on another podcast, but he gave the example of
Richard Herrnstein and Charles Murray.
Oh, there you go. I forget what the sequel is called, but he had used an example of, and this is hypothetical because we don't know that this actually happened, but that Marco Polo goes to Asia, right? And he has a child with a local. And if that, you know, after generations, he keeps, you know, breeding in, and each time you're diluting it more and more, you can get to a point where not a single piece of you as that person's ancestor exists in their genetic line, and that you are indistinguishable at that point from the people around you.
Right.
But what that means is that, like in this guy's case, if he was to go through that process for, you know, 100 generations, whatever, I mean, it probably wouldn't even take that long, but
No.
If he was to do that, he's essentially being eliminated from the genetic pool. So it's not that he's.
It's not that he's become American.
Right.
It's that his descendants have unbecome Indian.
Well, and it's not that he's mixed himself at that point into the bloodline of Americans. It's that he's been eliminated from that. His descendants. Out. Yeah. So I make a distinction there. I think it's important to make that distinction of what you're talking about at that point.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway. All right. Getting on to the third bit, and we're going to try to go quick through this. But the last thing that happened, and this was another misfortunate thing that happened, was the planks about Israel. There's two of them, 282 and 283. And I'm just going to let this guy talk.
283, those first two sentences in 283 is...
Going to mic number 3.
Brian Fair, SD 12. I'd like to make a motion to amend the motion to strike surface water.
Oh, this went, it skipped. The page reloaded. I wish that hadn't happened. But if I can, I'll try and find it. But I may have to, I had it in here and then it disappeared. It was after Ted Cruz. Toward the end. Well, I'm just going to have to tell you what happened because the page reloaded and now it doesn't want to. Now I lost my place. But essentially what happens is planks 282 and 283. We had these two planks for Israel, pro-Israel nonsense. And the plank 283 is even stronger than 282. 282, we strongly condemn the violence, harassment, and hatred directed toward Jews and Israel worldwide. We consider the anti-Semitic boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement as a form of warfare being waged upon Israel on all levels, blah, 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 blah. 283 says we strongly condemn the rise in anti-Semitism that has spread worldwide, the violence, harassment, and hatred directed toward Jews and Israel as adopted by Texas government code, etc. And as such, we Texans strongly condemn any violence, harassment, and or hatred directed toward the nation of Israel and Jewish people worldwide. We respect Israel's rights of sovereignty, self-determination, and self-defense. Therefore, we support all these things. And he said he would like to just strike all that language in 283 because it's just a rehash of 282. He didn't even say we shouldn't support Israel. He just said, I'd like to strike this because, first off, the use of the word anti-Semitic is being used as a cudgel against people's free speech, and we shouldn't support that. Very normie position. And he got booed. He got screamed at. People got dragged out of the room because they were being too vocal about their support against Israel. And it got voted down. He was unable to get that pulled out of the planks. And that's unfortunate, actually, the priorities. It's not a plank, it's a priority. But yeah, it seems like no matter where you go, no matter what's going on, you must make obeisance. You must bow to the idol. You must bow to the shrine. You must kiss all the shoes, the pile of shoes. You cannot not have an opinion on this position. You may not even be ambivalent. You have to condemn in the strongest language because that is what is required. That is the secular religion of our nation. So things went very well. But unfortunately, we had this to contend with at the end of the day. This is a fat boomer who shows up in a scooter. He says, I made it just in time, especially to vote for the pro-Israel planks. Just despicable. He's got one thing he cares about. I'm going to show up to the Republican convention. I'm not going to be there from Thursday like the people who actually care. I'm not going to go to my caucus meetings. I'm just going to show up to vote for the pro-Israel planks. Just wild. You know, selling out his future generations for not even a bowl of lentils. He's getting nothing. He's not even getting a pat on the head. But that's what we have to contend with. So very unfortunate. Very unfortunate. All right, let's hit comments a little bit, and then we will get to the SBC thing. Nate Downey says, no one talks about the fascisy. I think we just did. Yellow Moss says, I just want laws enforced. Is that fascist? Well, if it is, then I must be the most fascist man alive. Nate Downey says, no one talks about the fascists that won, Spanish nationalists. Were they, though? I mean, the Spanish nationalists never called themselves fascists, but they certainly saw the fascists in Europe as allies. And again, just like Italian fascism and National Socialist Germany were very different, Italy, Germany, Spain, very different forms of government. But they saw a commonality among each other, and they were allied to each other. But that doesn't mean that they were the same movement. But you are right. Nobody likes to talk about the Spanish nationalists because it's harder to make them out to be bad guys since we never fought a war against them, and they were allowed to continue existing after the war into the 1970s. Reasonable Thinker says, Sean, you look like a strawberry. Did you get some sun, Sean?
I was, you know what it was? I think when I'm like further back, the
light just kind of looks red.
Yeah, because
lighting can do that. And I mean, for instance, I look like I have red hair in our video, but I do not. I am blonde. I am as blonde could be. I do not have red hair. So lighting does that sometimes. And he says, are those sunglasses rings on your face? And I was saying you look like a raccoon. Reasonable Thinker, you're on thin ice. We're about to kick you.
I've made peace. I've made peace with my hideousness.
Yellow Moss says you're 1/4 strawberry. Well, 1/4 doesn't count. Yeah. But Culture Dweeb says, what did he say? Can't understand. He's
talking about the Asian.
Yeah,
the Asian dude.
It was funny. Abraham George has a pretty good accent, but every once in a while, especially on the W's, he pronounced things a little bit off. And we have an Indian in our county and in our Senate district who showed up, and he was sitting next to me. And every time Abraham George would mispronounce something, I would just say it again. Just repeat it with the funny accent. And I'm sure it was insulting to the guy next to me, but I don't really care. He's a very annoying individual, and people in our county have gotten to loathe him. So we'd rather he just didn't show up. He keeps getting in trouble because he runs for Congress every time, and he uses the money from his private businesses that the government funds to fund his campaigns. So he's a self-made millionaire and privately wealthy. And he got in trouble this last year because he was going around taking down the other congressional candidates' signs and putting up his in their place, which is a crime. He was caught on CCTV footage doing it, and nobody got prosecuted, but he did get banned from some party functions, which is good. But he didn't get banned from this function, which is unfortunate. He says, oh, disagree, LMAO. Okay. Yeah. But Reasonable Thinker says, gotta run. Have a good night. Have a good night, man. Yellow Moss says, 99 Luftballons is a banger here. 99 red balloons. Yeah. That's one of the dozen or so German songs that I know all the words to. Another one of Nena's songs that I really like is Irgendwo, Irgendwie, Irgendwann. If you're into German music, look that one up. It's an absolute unrecognized banger, at least here in the States. And Check for Tunnel says it's not just him being eliminated from the pool. India has been eliminated from that pool. That's right. Yeah, the entire national heritage at that point has been washed out. And he says, quote, eventually there will be people with no genetic trace of you remaining, and then they will be American, end quote. Yeah, that's kind of how that works. Yeah. Nate Downey says that happened to the Roanoke Lost Colony. The settlers got abandoned, had to integrate into the Croatoan tribe. Within 4 generations, all Englishness was gone. That's correct. People would talk about the Croatoans having lighter skin and lighter eyes than their neighbors, but not sure how much that was a impact.
The idea was that they had blue eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Probably not all of them, but the idea that
just
a
some
Native
of them
American would have blue eyes at all is
it would have to come from Europeans.
Where did that come from?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Jeff Hapley says they think they took refuge the Croatoan, and then shortly after that, the tribe was attacked and decimated by another tribe, killing almost all the English refugees. Yeah, I mean, we assume they took refuge. They may have just been kidnapped. They may have come in, killed the men, and taken the women and children. We don't know what happened with the Croatoans. And very, very common occurrence in early America, actually. They have asked the Croatoan historians to look through their microfiche archives. I'm sure they were writing all these things down in their lack of an alphabet. Yeah,
the back of seashells and all that.
No, they did not have a written language, so that is something lost to history. All right, to get into the SBC stuff, and we are going to blaze through this because it is getting late. But the SBC elected a new president. Here is a summary from William Wolf. He says 43% to abolish the ERLC in 2025. So we want the ERLC gone. For those of you who are not familiar, I'm not going to go into it, but it's a very liberal aspect of the SBC. We'd love to see it gone. 57% for Willie Rice. So they have a new president, Willie Rice. He seems to be great. I don't know a lot about him, but everybody in the SBC that I've talked to, they're ecstatic. They say he's going to be a reformer. He's going to bring stuff in to fix things. So I'm excited for you guys. 74% for Moeller's amendment. Then he goes on to say, conservative reformers in the SBC aren't the fringe. We are the representatives of what the broad base of grassroots Southern Baptists think and want. We are the center. Time to assume it and act accordingly. And he's right. You know, it's time for us. I say us royally. I'm not in the SBC, but it's time for us to stand up for ourselves, to actually take a position, to say something strong, to shift it into higher gear, as Seth here says. You know, it's time for us to actually get into power. Wield power, guys. Get into power, wield power. And then this Jesus juking, this is helping nobody.
Yeah,
it's not about what you think you want. It should be about what's biblically correct.
I want to give a little bit of context for that number. The 43% voted to abolish the ERLC in 2025. So I was in the room at the SBC in 2018. It was the year when JD Greer first got voted in. There was one guy who stood up and said, I would like to make a motion to abolish the ERLC and put that money towards missions or something like that. And he basically, like, no one else voted for it. It was just him. He was
alone on the floor.
Guy, and he got laughed at, and it was a whole like, this idiot. Now you're talking about 43% of the people at the SBC who want to abolish the ERLC. That's like a couple years tops from being over 50%. I don't know what the percentage has to be for it to pass, but the problem, that 7%, that's like a couple years worth of boomers dying, and you've got and you've got it. So
yeah,
that's the
generational change.
Yeah.
The future belongs to the radicals, and as William Wolf is pointing out, we're not actually radicals. We're really just we're really what we are is we're a return to normalcy. We're getting back to sanity, and it's good to see. So JD, lost my hats. He says, and this is him giving just a little bit of context. He wrote an article, which I recommend. Go follow him on Twitter. Read his article on the fight to save the SBC, the sham it has become. And he's a little more black-pilled than Wolf is. But he says, the night before Adrian Rogers was elected president in 1979 and the conservative resurgence was kicked off, his sermon was titled, The Devil's Fib of Women's Lib. It was a sermon against female pastors. The entire inerrancy debate started over female pastors. And at this year's SBC meeting, the topic was back on the table as though this reform didn't already happen. Now they've been told to come back next year to finish the reform. And he makes a point about how nothing that you fight for seems to ever be lasting. You know, you have this conservative resurgence in the 1980s that supposedly saves the SBC from all this liberalism. And where are we today? We're still fighting it. And Albert Mohler has been a bruised reed, which if a man leans upon it will shatter and splinter his hand. He has not been a reliable guy. Look at all of his acolytes. Every single guy that he mentors and trains turns out to be some sort of left-wing liberal, except for one guy who broke with him, and he's a right-wing great guy. But he broke with he is out of favor with Mohler, and yet he's the one right-wing guy that has come out of his private tutorship. So yeah, I mean, the conservative resurgence has been a bit of a sham. But hopefully this new guy, Willie Rice, will actually be a conservative resurgence. Hopefully we can see some positive change. And like Sean said, as the boomers die, you know, maybe we'll see some actual real right-wing conservative stuff happen. Defiant Baptist, he's just giving a summary. He says, you can always count on Whitebeard for a black pill. He decided to chime in on SBC 26, which most of us saw as a total Baptist victory, despite the fact that his friend Tom Buck said it was the best convention in a decade. James White suggests that Willie Rice was allowed to win by the progressives since they already know they have complete institutional control. Yes, James is alleging a stolen election at the SBC for evil 4D chess reasons. This is similar to how White reacted to the 2024 election results leading up to November. James insisted that the election would have been a landslide if it was fair, which is laughable. I don't agree that it's laughable, but I don't think it would have been a landslide. When that didn't happen, he changed his story to the left just wasn't able to cheat enough. It's also tiresome. None of his theories are falsifiable, yet he persists. And yeah, this is, I mean, I appreciate some of the learning that I got from James White, but the boomer mentality has to die because this is just... look, he's covering up his tattoos. Or is that his tattoo? It's hard to tell.
No, that is the tattoo.
That is the tattoo.
Yeah,
he's
that
wearing another.
It's a weird. It looks so weird.
It's gross.
Yeah,
but I mean, the boomer mentality is on its way out, and I'm glad to see it go. I mean, I was seeing a friend post on Twitter today where like a woman was marching with a pride flag, and a little 3-year-old walks up to her, and he takes the flag from her, walks over and throws it in a garbage can. And he was just sharing the video like, oh man, see, this is awesome. This is how you raise your kids. The thing is, it was obviously an AI video. First of all, as the 3-year-old walks up to the garbage can, he suddenly becomes big enough to open a dumpster and throw something into it. My 9-year-old daughter can barely do that. Okay. And then the garbage can opened against its hinge and the flag didn't flap right in the wind. I mean, it was obviously an AI video, and yet boomers are getting one shot by AI videos. Eventually, guys, you will get old enough that you need to just retire and sit on your front porch and tell stories to your grandkids. And, you know, I hope when the time comes that I will be ready for that. But, Anyway, New Christendom Conference. The New Christendom, not the New Christian Intellectuals, but the New Christendom Conference was happening in Ogden, Utah. A bunch of people went, and one of the vendors there was this group called Antelope Hill. And some people really hate Antelope Hill. Some people hate them because they shared Nazi stuff. Some people hate them because it was started by a Jew. It seems like you can't win for losing. But they share books that were written by Germans around the time of World War II. They do not endorse the things in the books. They're just sharing historical documents. But that is super bad. Here is 55 IQ water boy, Gabriel Wrench from Idaho. It says, important books for sale include essential speeches from Hitler. Oh, so I guess we should just burn these books then, huh? Is that what you're saying? But yeah, Antelope Hill, we're vending at the new Christendom Press conference today. Check us out if you're there. And, you know, they have a stand and they're selling books. One thing that a friend of mine pointed out is that they also sell anti-Nazi books by people who are not from Germany. But it's never enough, is it? It's never enough. So, unfortunately, these necessary, you know, you must denounce. You can't share anything. You can't read about. I mean, they act like that meme, right? Oh no, Johnny, don't look at them. I don't want you to become a. Oh no, what has happened to my beautiful boy? He's turned into a Nazi.
It's too late, mother. I've seen everything.
Yeah, it's too late, mother. I have seen everything. Yeah, but on Facebook, this was being shared even by people who are supposedly right wing as, oh, I can't believe they would do this. You know, I can't believe you've done that. But a friend of mine, Lacobos Wolfgang, he shared and he says, literally freaking who cares? Pastor Brian's a good man. He's doing good work, but he allowed a bad guy at the table. You mean a publisher who's gone to great trouble to publish a ton of actual banned books that are unbelievably hard to get, and in doing so has preserved history and pushed back against global liberal malaise? Oh no, he published Mustache Man's book. Ignore that Schuler Books also sells it at their store locations. Yeah, so I mean, some of these books, like Adolf Hitler's Essential Speeches, you can buy that at Barnes & Noble.
For real?
Yeah, I mean, you can get these things from normal bookstores. You can buy Mein Kampf at normal bookstores because it's given to people as reading in college. It's part of liberal diplomas. Some of these books you can get a hold of. The Sword of Christ, that one's a little harder to get a hold of. I believe that's an exclusive from them. Or if it's not that one, it's another one like it. But Rise and Fall of the Third Reich, that is a common book. Yeah, you can get it everywhere. I've read it. It's a great book. Oh no. Go ahead.
So I want to be clear, though. I like how we have 88 people watching right now. There's been two different reasons people have said it was wrong for them to have Antelope Hill at the conference. So there's the people like, you know, oh man, these I told you these guys are Nazis. We called it. But then, you know, there's people like, I mean, I guess I'll just say myself, who are looking at this like, well, wait a second. It's not because they're too right wing. It's because they do a lot of like pagan type stuff.
Yeah, because they're not explicitly Christian.
Yeah, they're not a Christian. I mean, they publish something. Here's my thing with Antelope Hill. They have some titles that I'd be very interested to read, but they're like hard to get, right? So where else are you going to go but like Antelope Hill? I think that they do good work in that regard, that they get titles out there, but they don't exactly stand for everything that we stand for. And some of their stuff is kind of a poison pill.
Yeah. Yeah. And they actually responded to this because someone brought it up. I was looking for it and I didn't find it, but they responded on Twitter to somebody who said, well, you know, they shouldn't be here, not because they're not Nazis, but because they're pagans. And the response was actually, you know, 33 of the guys who work here, and he didn't give a percentage about how much of the group that is, but he said, a decent portion of the guys who work here are born again Christians, which means explicitly that not all of them are. And he said, but we are a secular organization. Our goal is to promote communication on the subject and to provide people with the documents to do so. He says we are a secular organization because we believe that all people, no matter what their religion, should be able to have access to these books. And while I somewhat can understand where they're coming from, I think every organization should be explicitly Christian. But, they aren't. Does that mean that they can't be at a Christian conference? I mean, are you going to say that every vendor at every Christian conference needs to be a Christian? Because that's what you're saying. And I guarantee you there were vendors at the SBC conference who were not Christian organizations, who were secular organizations. Are you going to call out those people? I doubt it. So anyhow, Solaire of Astoria, not to be confused with the other Solaire, who is an idiot, says most who are counter-signaling the new Christendom are fundamentally dishonest for two reasons, a thread. And he posts this picture of, IQ 55 wrench. And he says, first, these classical education guys already advocate their children read Marx, Mao, Hitler, etc. in typical Moscow fashion, rules for thee, not for me. And that's a very good point. I mean, these are the people who are saying that, on the other hand, they did come out and say, Aristotle should not be the example, only Christ should, the typical Jesus.
Yeah, they freaked out about Aristotle.
They're just very inconsistent is what it comes down to, because they want their children to read Plato, but they don't want them to read Aristotle. They want them to be classically educated. I want you to read, the Iliad, but I don't want you to read Aristotle. It's very bizarre. But he says, second, the backlash is precisely why these books belong at the conference. Real nationalism demands confronting its boogeymen head on. If every time we propose nationalism, they smash our movement with a rhetorical Hitler hammer, what else can be done? It's fundamentally dishonest to paint the NCP guys as Hitler lovers because it's such a powerful rhetoric hammer created by our enemies, wielded by our brothers. They wield it gladly. So they've left us no other choice. We must smash the hammer by decartoonizing and recovering an honest picture of the man who is neither a demon nor an angel, but simply a man. Congratulations, it's actually your fault we have Hitler books at Christian conferences. It didn't have to be this way. Yeah. And then he shares, White Boy Summer Meme King wrote an article on this topic if you're interested. And of course, White Boy Summer Meme King is William Wallace. If you're not following him, what's wrong with you people?
Yeah, I'll reiterate an idea I've said a bunch of times. For guys like, we'll use John Harris as an example. You're about to talk about him. The big thing that people like him need to reckon with when it comes to the Nazis, right, in general, is you got to figure out, as an ostensible conservative, right, you need to figure out how you're going to accomplish what they accomplished without doing what they did. That's going to be your
challenge.
That's your challenge, right? Because like I said, they were burning the gay books, right? They burned down the transgender institution. They got rid of the sexual degeneracy, right? You had a bunch of, children were involved many times, right? Women were treated like a thing to be bought and sold, essentially. Animals were involved in that kind of stuff. He shut all that down, right? As an elected official, right? You say, well, we're not going to vote our way out of this. Well, people vote for Hitler their way out of it. So, you may not be able to vote for Jeb Bush your way out of it, but there are voting options that can get you through.
Yeah, there are voting options. You just don't like them.
Yeah. So all that to say, what is it that exactly that the Republican Party in general, I'm going to say in general, right? Like a John Harris type guy. What exactly is it that you don't want to do? Is it a mathematically impossible amount of genocide? Well, I mean, okay.
I think the mathematics will prevent us from doing that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, during COVID, Germany itself was worried that they didn't have enough ovens to do cremations from all the deaths from COVID. Right. I mean, where I come from, we only need
lost
4
the technology,
ovens.
man.
Yeah.
We went to the moon and we lost the technology,
Yeah.
and they incinerated 6 million bodies and they lost the technology. Yeah.
So
yeah, it's the same moon landing technology too. It's Nazi technology caused you to do inhuman, impossible things, and when the Nazis died, you just can't do it anymore.
That's true.
Yeah, just silliness. John Harris. Now, first off, this is from an account that you blocked because it is
that guy. Yeah,
Hillary Faggot. John Harris says, "My prayer is that there was ignorance about this that will be clarified. Darwinian racialism is obviously out of step with orthodoxy." And then, Hilaire Nereus, the war for normal. Yeah, this is totally normal. Well, it is now. It is now. Yeah, and they shared this picture here, which I thought was so funny. It's like, thank you for shopping pro-white. Here's a list of books, apparel, media, music, board games, legal, and design. They're just pro-white groups. And I'm a board game lover. So I looked up this incelriot.com, and they've got 2 board games that are very cool looking. So I might be getting those because that just looks very neat. So look into that. Very cool stuff. But I can't endorse any of these people because I don't know who they are, but I'm interested. You have piqued my interest and you have my attention. But he goes on. I guess we have our answer. Here's Eric Kahn says, cancel culture is feminine because all cancellations are feminine. Cancel culture is simply what women do whenever there are enough of them in a given organization or field. Now notice that's in quotes. Ironic, what we're watching is a function of the Longhouse. Before any questions can be asked or answered, the mob arrives with pitchforks, led by parasites and accusers of the brethren. And I don't know who he's quoting, but that is a quotation that John Harris then has a problem with. And Eric Kahn says, it's not our response. It's the Lord's Day. Go fellowship with your people instead of fueling division. We'll respond this week. So, hold your hat, keep your pants on, be patient. There will be a response coming. But I thought this was very bizarre. David Morrill. If John is not among his people in this online conversation, who exactly is he fueling division amongst? David, calm your tits, bro. When he says it's the Lord's Day, go fellowship with your people, what he's saying is touch grass, go commune with your local church body. Calm down. Wait for the response. But anyway, John Harris, despite how ruggedly handsome he is, I only say that because he looks like me. Or maybe I look like him. He's older than me. But I have been accused of being a John Harris lookalike many times. Maybe we're cousins.
I see it.
Who knows?
I see it.
But John Harris has been a bit of a disappointment. I mean, he loves his Confederate stuff. But I have a feeling he'd have a problem with our last show. Don't you?
Yeah, he's one of those. He's one of those guys that's like, oh, the war had nothing to do with slavery. But I mean, you'd be like, well, that, I mean, a little bit.
It didn't have nothing to do with it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Bro, I was reading a book to my son last night. I had started it. I'm not going to finish it with him, but it's a kid's book, so I actually got quite a ways through it. And it's about the history of finding dinosaur bones and like these two guys' rivalry. And then out of nowhere, there's suddenly a discussion about what the Civil War was about. Like, it's like a whole chapter. It's even got like the battle flag crossed with the stars and stripes, and then it's just like I was just like, what is this? Like, I didn't read it, that part of it, to my son, but I was looking at it, it's just like, oh yeah, if the South would have won, we would still have slavery, and if the so the North won so that they could take their slaves. And I'm just like, boy, this is, first of all, unnecessary, and second of all, is a bit of a slant on the whole thing. So,
all right, well, let's get into comments. And Nate Downey 9590 says the Roanoke colony was only men. Nate, that is not correct. I mean, that is provably not correct. There were about 120 people, men, women, and children. One of the number one people who was left behind in the Roanoke colony was John White, the governor who went back to England. Was his own daughter, who is the first mother to a child born to an English child born in America. Okay, so you were giving me a hard time about being wrong about the SBC. I'm going to tell you right now, that's not correct. So I might be wrong about the SBC. I still don't think I am, but you're definitely wrong about this. But Yellow Moth says there are blonde Aboriginals, and their blonde is a different gene than ours, so it's possible Croatoans have their own blue eyes.
Those are albinos.
Maybe.
They're not.
First off,
right,
the only blonde Aboriginals, I believe you're talking about Australia. The only blonde Aboriginals that I've ever heard of were in southwest Australia. And we actually know where they came from because it came from two shipwrecks that were Portuguese, I believe, who were trying to make it to the Indies. They might have been Dutch. They're either Dutch or Portuguese. They're trying to make it to Southeast Asia, Siam, Indonesia. And they didn't go north when they were supposed to, and they rode the trade wind all the way to the coast of Australia. They landed their ships and immediately started killing each other because they were shipwrecked, and they were mad at whoever it was whose fault it was that marooned them on the island of Australia. And the survivors of that conflict bred into the local Aboriginal population, and they have blonde hair and blue eyes because of that, from all the way back in the 14 or I believe it was early 1500s. So no, that is not correct that we don't know where it comes from, but it being a different gene, I've never heard that before. So maybe you're thinking of some different Aboriginals than the ones I'm familiar with.
Portuguese don't even have
Portuguese
blonde hair
aren't
and blue
particularly
eyes.
blonde. I mean, they have some, but they're not particularly blonde. They're certainly a minority among the Portuguese. But Nate Downey says, bro, we were there in Dallas at the SBC at the same time. I was not at the SBC. I was in Houston at the RNC, or the RPT, actually. But he says 50 plus 1, 2 years in a row. I believe this is
He's saying
to how much people voted for it.
Well, no, I think he was saying that's what it takes for something to, like, that's what it would take to get rid of the ERLC. It would have to be 50 plus 1, 2 years in a row.
Oh,
you couldn't just do it in a single year.
Okay.
I don't know all the bylaws. It's been years since I've been Southern Baptist anyway.
Yeah,
So.
I've not been SBC since I was 19. So yeah, I have lived a lifetime since then, literally. Check for Tunnel says, pretty sure that's the same guy who was trying to shame men into marrying whores a couple months ago. Isn't that talking about Waterboy? That seems familiar. I think so. I think you're right. The whole, reformed prostitute thing. It would. My memory doesn't serve right, but him being on the wrong side of that issue would just be par for the course. So, let's see. Yellow Moss says priests retired at 50. I think that about this a lot. I don't know what tradition you're talking about, but in the Old Testament, I mean. There you go. Yeah, okay. Hey, that's biblical precedent right there. Maybe there should be something to that. And I mean, we do have longer life expectancy than they did, so maybe we can bump it up to 60 or 58 or something like that. But yeah, I mean, at some point when you're old, you should go home. Nate Downey says, Lib's entire political philosophy revolves around AH, which is my poor maligned uncle, but we shouldn't read him. Make it make sense. Yeah, exactly. It's like, Yellow Moss says, let's see 88 thumbs up. Yeah, everybody who's watching this live, pop over to the YouTube, give us a thumbs up. Let's see if we can get 88 thumbs up. That'd be hilarious. Nate Downey says, John Harris positions himself as the safe guy on the right. I mean, he does now. He didn't always.
Yeah.
He used to be. Doug Wilson too. This is very, very normal, where people will position themselves as the right-wing extreme, and then when they become mainstream, they're like, okay, but you can't be to my right. I'm the only allowable extreme, and I'm not that way.
Yeah. I
mean, we've had people on this show who are more extreme than myself. We had them on a show not that long ago, just last week, and you know what? I'm not going to gatekeep, because you can be more right-wing than me. I'm okay with that. You can be more extreme than me. I'm okay with that. I'm into coalition building. I want to see us prosper. And the thing is, I might disagree with your positions on stuff, and you might disagree with mine, but we'd be a lot happier. I'd be happier living under your government, and you'd be happier living under mine than either of us are under the current regime. So why don't we focus on that? And then Nate Downey says, David Morrill is the Gabe Wrench of Protestia. No comment. And then Check for Tunnel says, Virginia Dare. Don't know who that is, but Nate Downey.
Virginia Dare is a kind of a news source, I guess you would say. I don't know if they even exist anymore.
Virginia Dare was a historical person in late 1500s. First English child to be born in the English colony. Yeah, that's correct. She was born to members of the Roanoke colony. She was the grandchild of John White, who was the governor who went back to England. And by the time he got back, because of his delay, because of the war with was it Spain or France? I believe it was Spain. By the time he got back, they were all gone. Yellow Moss says they're not albino. Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. He says there was a blonde Aboriginal in Quigley Down Under, so I looked it up. They are not European. Okay, all right. Well, it could be that they've just got a distinct blonde feature over there, which I was not aware of. But as far as Croatoans having light eyes and blonde hair, that's not a thing. That was known to not be a thing until after the Roanoke colony disappeared. There were people who knew them before, there were people who knew them after, and there was a noticeable change. So different situation there. But Nate Downey says yes about abolishing the ERLC. Yeah, talking about the 50+1. And then Check for Tunnel says JD lost my hat, dude, is who I am remembering. Yeah, he's with Protestia, I believe. I don't remember exactly how the Protestia thing works, but it's a bunch of different people who give to it. JD is not a 100% banger. He has had takes that I disagree with, but he's, for the most part, he's pretty great. And I've met him in person, and he seems like a good dude. So, but with that said, we have run out of comments. And it is nearly 11 o'clock. Oh, okay. Yellow Moss says JD left Protestia. I think he founded it, though. Something like that. All right. Well, with that said, folks, we've been going for 2.5 hours. This is going to be one of our longer shows. And thanks for sticking with us. There was a lot to cover, but I did want to get into it because I thought it was pretty pertinent to a lot of the things that are going on right now. So, thanks for sticking in there. Thanks for sticking out to the end. But now it is time for you to go to bed because tomorrow's a work day for most of us. I mean, I have to work tomorrow, so it's going to be a rough day. But it's raining right now, so I don't know how much work I'm going to get done. But we shall see. But it's time to go to bed, because tomorrow's a day that God has prepared good works for you to do, and you need to be well rested so that you can do them. And for our Father supporters, there will be an after show that will start immediately at the succession of this program. So, folks, we appreciate you watching. Like, share this video, visit our sponsor, show him some love, and share this with your friends. You know, if you've got people who are interested about kind of a summary of the Republican convention or the SBC convention. We didn't cover the SBC very thoroughly. There were some very interesting votes that happened. We just didn't have time to get into all of it. And since I wasn't there, I figured we would cover what I did go to. But anyway, have a good night, everybody, and farewell.